Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to Mixed Media Mayhem. Today our recipe involves some ink blending, flowers, and splatters. So I am starting off with a single photo layout, and I printed this photo as large as it would go on my selfie. Normally I print with a white border, but I did not print with a border this time because the photo, I wanted it as large as possible. And sometimes when you print it without a border, it'll cut off the very, very top and the very bottom of the photo. And this photo had room on the top and the bottom, so I didn't have to worry about it cutting anybody's head off or anything like that. So I went ahead and printed it without a border so I can get it as large as possible, but I still am going to back it with some white paper. I am trying to figure out what color I'm going to use with this yellow bow bunny paper, and I'm thinking blue, but I didn't end up using this blue paper. I had thought about it, and because he's wearing a blue shirt, she's wearing yellow, I thought it would work well, but I am going to need to do some ink blending, and instead of doing it on my background, I decided to do some ink blending on these flowers instead. Now these flowers are a bunch of different flowers that I pulled from Creative Fabrica, and it's more than one set, so there's several sets here. And what I did was I just pulled them into PowerPoint and I sized them however I wanted them, so they're in multiple sizes, and then I print them on my printer in black and white, and I can make them whatever color I want that way. So I just pulled out I think I've got some tumbled glass and some faded jeans. I think I started out with chipped sapphire, but it leans a little bit too much towards the purple than the blue, so I ended up going with the faded jeans and the chipped sapphire, or not chipped sapphire, tumbled glass. And I will show those at the very end of the video, the stack of all of the inks that I use, because I'm also going to pull out a bunch of greens to do the leaves, and I end up using, I believe, bundled sage, and maybe, I don't know if it's Shabby Shutters, but Rustic Wilderness, I believe is the green one. Anyway, like I said, I will show the stack of them at the end with all of their names on it, and I will list them down below in case there is something that you are interested in purchasing or picking up. The links will be down below so you know exactly what I used. So I'm just really quickly doing some ink blending. It's really not rocket science. Basically just two colors. I'm doing a light color first and then the dark color, or you can do it vice versa. It doesn't have to be the dark color or the light color first. I do find that when I'm just doing two colors like this, if I do the light color first, my blending brush doesn't pick up the dark color as much. So that might be something to think about, but I don't really think it matters because oftentimes in ink blending you go over it multiple times with each color. So this is the little girl that I take care of when she was maybe 4 months old, 4 or 5 months old, and that's her grandpa, that but they call him Baba. So this is going to go in her album, and I thought it would be nice to have a picture of him with her in there because he comes to see them quite often. And so with the ink blending, I thought I'd use these flowers and the greenery as kind of a border across the where the yellow and the white meet. So instead of like tucking in a blue paper underneath and ripping it along the edge or having some blue ink sticking out, I just thought it was a nice way to add that color, but to also kind of keep it soft and feminine, because, you know, she's a girl. So not that boys can't have flowers on their layouts, because they certainly can, and I have done plenty of layouts for Noah with lots of flowers on them, so that doesn't bother me at all. But I just thought it was a nice way to go ahead and soften it up rather than, you know, adding the blue paper and just ripping the edge. It also is a nice way to be able to go and play with your mixed media without being super messy, because using the blending brushes and the ink pads are not really, it's not a super messy process. So I did use all of those in Oxide inks rather than the regular Distress inks. Could have used it in either one, doesn't really matter. it would have given you a similar look. It wouldn't be exactly the same. The oxides are a little bit more opaque than the Distress inks. So what I'm doing here is I saw in the corner there where it has some distressed text on the yellow paper. I had the paper upside down, so I just flipped it around and tucked them in a little bit more towards the right than the left, so that I get as much of the picture as possible showing, and so that the dip of the ripped edges don't like cover his head or anything like that. So now I'm going to go through and start placing my flowers. I do end up just using a little bit of my ATG gun to hold them in place. I'm not getting super crazy or anything with it, and I think that works really well. You could easily use the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive as well, but what I didn't want to happen was I didn't want to get so far down the path here that when I go to tuck in the green leaves, that the liquid glue would have dried and I wouldn't have been able to tuck them in. So that's why I decided to go with the ATG versus the liquid glue, because oftentimes I do reach for the liquid glue first, especially on this kind of a layout, because I like to be able to move things around just a little bit here and there. And sometimes the ATG gun, you know, that you can peel them up, but you can't like rotate just by like spinning it around like you can if it's liquid glue. Anyway, I just thought I would mention why I decided to go with the ATG for this particular layout. Now I am adding a couple of yellow flowers. Those are from the Bow Bunny Willow and Sage collection. The ephemera pack had some yellow flowers in it, so I pulled those out just to bring in a touch of yellow, because I've got the yellow paper on both edges. I thought it would just be nice to bring in a couple, and I only had like 3 of them, so that's all I've got on this page. But I kind of like that it goes with this a little bit of a diagonal. Well, it's a lot like a diagonal at the moment, where if you follow the line of the yellow flowers, and I am going to have a bit of a diagonal with my embellishments, so it kind of just keeps with that. At this point, I hadn't really decided where my embellishments were going. I just knew I wanted to do these 2 rows of blue flowers. I also want the flowers to kind of, some of them to look like they're in front of the yellow paper, and some behind, and some that kind of cross over, and that's why I went ahead and cut a little bit of a line in some of those flowers so I could tuck them under but have some of the petals fall over the outside or the yellow paper. I think it looks a little bit more natural that way. And then I'm going to go ahead and tuck in some of these green leaves. Some of them will be peeking out onto the white paper. Some of them are over the other flowers. Some are over the yellow paper. It's kind of supposed to look a little bit haphazard, but in an organized manner, if that makes any sense at all. It's kind of like, it, you know, in nature, things tend to, you look at something and it can look very balanced, but it's not like a grid pattern like a tic-tac-toe where you've got everything lined up and even, and all of your X's are alternating with your O's perfectly, but somehow it still looks like balanced. I don't know if that is a really good description or analogy, but that is kind of the look I'm going for. I want it to look balanced, and I want it to look like it's still natural. But anyway, hopefully that made sense. I don't know, I could be rambling. It's kind of late at night. So I did go through this Paige Evans sticker book. I pulled out a couple of tabs. I'm going to tuck those in on the right hand side of the photograph, and then I've got a couple of these labels that I'm also going to use as part of the embellishments. And again, I'm still not like 100% sure where those embellishments are going, but I thought that this little spot was a good place for this blue piece to go, and mostly because the flowers are all behind the yellow right there, and I just thought they tucked in nicely. And then there are some hearts. I was going to say flowers. Those are hearts. Some hearts in this sticker book as well. I am popping those up onto some white foam tape. Or it's not really tape. It's foam, fun foam from Walmart. And it is adhesive backed. So I'm popping that up onto the fun foam. And these are super thin hearts. So I'm kind of making sure when I cut the foam, I cut it to fit the heart, not just put like a little rectangular piece underneath to give it a little bit of lift, because they are super thin, almost like washi tape. The other thing you could do is to just put them down on white paper, cut around them, and then put a square or rectangle of that foam underneath to give them a little bit of lift. So that would work as well, but just keeping them by themselves without any support underneath them would not work. So here's where my diagonal starts. It starts with these hearts. So I thought I would use a heart right next to those two little labels I put down. And then to balance it out, I end up going diagonally across to the top right of the photo with a couple of smaller hearts. Adding another label so I can add like the date and such. And I am going to add this larger label so I can write a little note about what he was doing, visiting, the reason for his visit basically, and about their relationship and such. And some of these things I am actually going to leave probably for her mom to note, because I think that it would be really special for her. Now, there are some things that I will note down, especially if it's a layout about something that I did with her. I do spend a lot of time with her, like, probably like 35 hours a week at least. And so the better part of her waking hours. And so we do spend a lot of time doing things together. And so I want to make sure that gets documented too. Not necessarily specifically because of our relationship, but because I want her to see the things that she went and did when she was this age, because, she's not going to remember. And I say this age, not the age that she is in the photo. She is 3 now. And I've known her entire life. So I'd want her to be able to look back and see like the fun activities that she got to go do when she was in her early years. So I think that's a lot of fun. And then she also has a little crew of buddies that she hangs out with. And I want to make sure that that is documented as well. They've been hanging out for the better part of the year together. There's 4 of them. And they have kind of a special bond between the 4 of them. So I did add a little bit of gold Heidi Swap Color Shine. And then I added some Ahoy Matey Shimmerz, which is a navy blue. And then I am looking to add some enamel dots. And I'm going to end up adding the dark blue ones from the little sheet on the right hand side there. And I am going to just have those kind of going up into both of the embellishment areas. So I'm going to add 3 to each of those areas. So not a ton, but just enough to bring in a little bit of depth of color, because they are that nice dark blue color. And I think they just kind of add a little bit of something special. Now I'm using these, let's see, Paige Evans foam stickers, and I like the size, and I am just putting Baba and Allie, that is her name and that's his name, and I thought that would be just a nice simple title. It doesn't have to be something big or fancy. It's just simple and it says what it is. I do want to remind you there are a bunch of people playing along with Mixed Media Mayhem. All of their links are down below for you if you are interested in checking them out. You can go and click on those links. I just finished it off there with a little bit of Dylusion's London Blue Shimmer Spray to give a little bit of sparkle. And that was the group of inks that I used. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. And go and check out the Mixed Media Mayhem Facebook group so that you can play along on the last Friday of the month. There is an inspiration piece that is posted earlier in the month so that you can play along with the rest of the group. Thanks again for watching. I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye-bye.